Let me ask you something that almost everyone has felt at some point. Have you ever been talking to someone, maybe a friend or someone you like, and you begin to notice this pattern where you are always the one who texts first? You start the conversation. You check in, you make plans, you drop the funny photo or the meme that starts things rolling. And then, after a while, you start wondering, if I stop texting this person completely, would we ever talk again? It is such a confusing feeling, because part of you thinks you are overthinking it, and the other part of you feels like you are carrying 100% of the effort. Most people assume that if someone never texts first, it must mean they are not interested. This has become the unofficial rule in modern communication. But as much as that idea feels simple and straightforward, psychology shows a very different story. Texting habits do not reveal interest in the clean way. Everyone assumes they do. People are complicated. Communication is complicated. And sometimes the person who never texts first is actually the one who cares the most, but struggles the most to show it. So let's break this down. Let's go deep into the psychology behind why some people never start the conversation. And by the time we reach the end of this, I promise you will understand texting in a completely different way. The first myth we need to get rid of is the idea that if someone wants to talk to you, they absolutely will. That sounds empowering. It sounds confident. It sounds like something a friend would say to cheer you up. But it is not always true. Human behavior is not driven only by desire. It is driven by fear, past experiences, attachment wounds, emotional habits, social conditioning, and personality traits that most people never examine. Let's start with attachment styles, because they shape communication more than almost anything else. Avoidant attachment is one of the most misunderstood patterns. People with avoidant tendencies are not cold or heartless, even though they sometimes look that way. They can care deeply and feel deeply, but closeness triggers a kind of emotional alarm inside them. Too much intimacy feels overwhelming. Too much vulnerability feels threatening. So what looks like distance from the outside is actually self-protection on the inside. Imagine someone who thinks about you throughout the day but feels anxious at the thought of starting a conversation because initiating feels like stepping into a space where they might lose control. For them, responding feels safer than reaching out first. Responding allows them to stay at a comfortable emotional distance while still maintaining connection. Initiating makes them feel exposed. This does not mean they do not care. It means caring feels complicated. Now let's look at anxious attachment. If avoidant people pull back when they feel too close, anxious individuals do the opposite. They want closeness. They crave reassurance. They think of you constantly. And because they think of you constantly, they also fear losing you constantly. They want to text first more than anyone. They feel the urge to reach out again and again. They pick up their phone every few minutes. They write a message. They delete Italiano. They rewrite it. They delete it again. Anxious attachment creates a cycle where the desire to connect fights against a powerful fear of rejection. They want to text first, but the thought of being ignored feels unbearable. So they sometimes remain silent, hoping you will make the first move, because that feels safer. Their silence is not disinterest. Their silence is anxiety disguised as restraint. Securely attached individuals communicate in a very different way. They do not obsess over texting. They do not fear it either. They assume the relationship is stable, unless something specific happens to shake that belief. If they do not text first often, it is not because they do not care. It is because they do not attach symbolic meaning to who starts the conversation. They believe in a natural rhythm where sometimes you initiate and sometimes they do. They do not see texting as a scoreboard. But attachment is only one part of the story. Many people have been shaped by past relationships more than they realize. Someone who spent years being the only one who initiated communication in a previous relationship may develop an internal rule about texting. They might think, I am not going to be the one who puts in all the effort again. Or they might think, I do not want to feel clingy again. Their current behavior is influenced by old emotional injuries. Imagine a person who used to send kind messages in a past relationship only to have them ignored or responded to with cold energy. Or imagine someone who was told they were too much or too needy, simply for expressing interest. Experiences like that leave emotional scars. And those scars change behavior. These individuals do not want to relive the pain of being the only one trying. So now they hesitate to initiate, even when they genuinely like someone. Now add social conditioning into the mix. Modern dating advice has created an environment where everyone is afraid of looking too eager. People say things like, never double text. Let them text first. Do not look desperate. Pretend you are busy. Play it cool. And because of this, so many people feel like texting first is the equivalent of exposing their deepest vulnerability. We are living in a time when showing interest is somehow considered unattractive. So people hesitate. They pause. They wait too long. They overthink. They want to communicate in a normal human way, but the fear of being judged or rejected makes them act in unnatural ways, and that becomes a habit. Personality traits add even more layers to this. Introverts, for example, often need mental space before initiating conversation. They care, they enjoy connection, but social interactions, even through text, require energy. If their energy is low, they will not initiate, even if they want to talk to you. Silence is not a sign of emotional distance. It is simply how they manage their inner world. There is also the group of high-functioning, anxious individuals. These people appear calm and collected on the outside, but inside, their mind is constantly racing. They overthink every message. They wonder if they are annoying. They wonder if the timing is wrong. They wonder if their message sounds odd. They question themselves so much that it becomes easier not to initiate at all. And then there are the people pleaser. These people do not want to impose. They do not want to bother you. They convince themselves that texting first might interrupt your day or add pressure. They think they are being polite. They think they are giving you space. They do not realize they are creating confusion instead of comfort. To understand how common this is, imagine the following scenario. Two people both like each other. Person A is anxious and terrified of seeming too eager. Person B is avoidant and terrified of feeling too close. Person A wants to text first, but stops themselves because they do not want to seem clingy. Person B wants to text first, but stops themselves because they do not want to feel overwhelmed. Both wake up, thinking about each other. Both check their phones. Both feel disappointed when they see no message. And both stay silent because each believes silence is the safest option. This scenario happens constantly, and most people never realize they are caught in the same emotional loop as millions of others. There is also something that I call the dopamine factor. This is where someone does not text first because they enjoy the feeling they get when you do. Your message gives them a little spark of happiness. It feels like confirmation that they matter to you. Their brain begins to associate your initiation with comfort. So they wait for you. Not because they expect it, not because they feel entitled, but because it feels good. It makes them feel chosen. Now let's talk about the honest part of this too. Sometimes someone not texting first really does signal low interest. The key is not whether they initiate, the key is how they respond when you do. If someone consistently gives short answers, slow replies, no emotional effort, and no real desire to engage or continue the conversation, then yes, that is lack of interest. But if someone responds warmly, engages with enthusiasm, asks questions, and shows genuine investment once the conversation starts, that is not disinterest. That is simply someone who struggles with initiation. So what should you do if you are tired of being the only one who always starts conversations? The healthiest strategy is simple honesty. You can say something like, I enjoy talking with you, and sometimes I feel like I am always the one who initiates. It would mean a lot if you texted first sometimes too. You will learn everything you need to know from their response. A person who cares will appreciate your honesty. They will adjust. They will start initiating more. Someone who is not invested will either ignore your request or offer excuses. If the dynamic drains your energy, it is also okay to step back. Communication should feel balanced. It should feel mutual. You should not have to pull a relationship or friendship along by yourself. And if their silence triggers your anxiety, the solution may involve strengthening your ability to sit with uncertainty. Not every quiet moment is a sign of rejection. Sometimes it is simply two people with different communication rhythms. And now, let me leave you with the most important truth of all. People who never text first are not always the ones who care the least. Many times, they are the ones who feel the most. They think about you, they value you, they enjoy you, but something inside them complicates the act of reaching out. Maybe it is fear. Maybe it is past pain. Maybe it is personality. Maybe it is insecurity. Maybe it is how they learned to protect themselves. Your message might be the moment that gives them relief. It might be the moment that makes them smile. It might be the moment that reassures them that they matter. The person who never texts first might not be avoiding you. They might simply be waiting for permission to feel safe. So before you assume they do not care, take a moment to remember the psychology behind communication. Sometimes the silence you hear is not a lack of interest. Sometimes it is a quiet struggle they have not learned how to express.